Slay the Brother makes another deck that slaps. Killshot's brother Soviet Green makes the mid-range look so mean. Coming at you with another damage horror grind down experimental meme deck from the Slay the Brother team.
Hi everybody, this is Killtrap. I hope you guys like that intro. I actually did that this morning. But today I want to go over Brawl. I love Brawl. I love Standard Brawl. And we're going over Kona Rescue Beastie as the commander for Standard Brawl today. They are a 4-mana 4/3 green creature with survival. Their survival reads, at the beginning of your second main phase, if Kona Rescue Beastie is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Which is just bonkers. Like at first, I really thought she just gave us a creature. And then I started using her and I was like, oh wait, permanent? This is going to get broken. And so that helped me decide some of the bombs I would choose, which is definitely where I'm starting off with this deck. That's the key focal point. That's why we build these decks. And if you're someone that's brewing your own Kona deck, or you just love Kona Rescue Beastie as your commander, that's why you're here. You want to see my bombs and you want to see my outlets to trigger them. I completely understand. So that's what we'll start off with. The first bomb, of course, we're going to go in order of mana value. Railway Brawler. You know, it's a 5-mana 5/5 with reach and trample. That's solid enough. Maybe not worthy of being in the commander deck, but whenever another creature you control enters, put X/1/1 counters on them, where X is their power. They don't have to be cast, they just have to enter play, which is awesome. Then we have Vorinclex. This is a nice way to get lands out of our decks. They're a 5-mana 6/6 with reach and trample, which is even better. When they enter the battlefield, we get to pull 2 forests out of our library, then shuffle, put them in our hand. And then for 8 mana, the humble price of 8 mana, we can exile them and turn them into the Saga the Grand Evolution, which will first allow us to mill 10 cards and put 2 creatures from among them onto the battlefield. Then we can distribute 7/1/1 counters among any number of our creatures. And then the final saga chapter of the saga gives all of our creatures the activate ability of 1 mana, this creature fights target creature you don't control. Then after that, we exile this and return it as Vorinclex. So that's just a fun card, really is. Speaking about fun, we have Gruff Triplets. They are, I may catch flack for saying this. I kind of hate myself for saying this. They are one of the bombs I probably will cut after Foundations comes through. Definitely, I mean, there's just so much great options. They may be one of the ones that gets the cut. Let's get real. And then someone I really can't cut is Vaultborn Tyrant. This is a 6/6 for 7 mana with trample. Whenever them or another creature you control with power 4 or greater enters, you gain 3 life and draw a card. And then when they die, if it's not a token, we create a copy of it, except it's a token and an artifact in addition to its other types. So that's awesome. Like, just great recursion, great value. Then we have Zoppendrel, Hunger Dominus. This guy's just, if you've never faced this guy down on the battlefield, it is intimidating. You're like, holy shit, they're going to pseudo Crater Hoof their way to victory. They're a 7-mana 4/6 with reach. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. And for 2 green Phyrexian mana, which can just be 4 life, and sacrifice 2 other creatures, you can put an indestructible counter on them. So that means if they lay down a board wipe that doesn't exile everything, this guy can stay in play, and you can keep using them to bash. Then for non-creature bombs, I have Nissa, Ascended Animist. If we get them out with Kona, they come in at 7. That's awesome. But, you know, for 5 mana and 4 life, we can get them to come in at 3. And every time we 1-up them, we get an XX green Phyrexian horror creature token, where X is is Nissa's loyalty. -1, we can destroy an artifact and enchantment. That's extremely potent in this format. And then, of course, -7, until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 for each forest you control, and they gain trample. Since we're a mono green deck, I packed 18 forests in here. I'd say that's pretty easy to Crater Hoof our way to victory. Copper Host Crusher. It's an 8/8 with trample and hexproof. It costs 8 mana. That's kind of pricey, I know. That's why they're an uncommon. And it's funny for me to have an uncommon bomb in this deck. It really is. But just the fact that I can use Kona to get a 8/8 with trample and hexproof in play, that's hard to handle. That is hard to handle. Then we have Galta, I don't know how to pronounce it, Stampede Tyrant. They're a 12/12 7-mana creature with trample. Whenever they enter, put any number of other creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So obviously, you know, you can't see one of these Kona decks without Galta, Stampede Tyrant in there. Obviously, for that reason, we cheat them on the field. We cheat every other creature in our hand on the field. Then I have City Scrape Leveler. Now, there's a drawback to playing them with Kona. And the drawback is in their ability. When you cast this spell and whenever they attack, destroy up to one target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a tap Power Stone token. This is an 8/8 with Trample and Unearth 8. But what's great about this is, even if we cheat them out with Kona, they know that when this guy attacks, we get to destroy one non-land permanent of theirs. That can be anything, so that's a real game changer. And then speaking about game-changing artifacts, we have Portal to Phyrexia. When this enters, each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. If you are running Kona and you're not running this, I can understand you probably were thinking creatures and power and shit like that. But no, Portal to Phyrexia is great. You will take out their side of the field, and you'll just start building yours that much stronger. And even if we don't drop it to make the opponent sacrifice 3 creatures, we still have the ability now to get a free creature from any graveyard onto our side of the field for free. So that's awesome. So now I want to talk about some of the enablers. I have more than just these 4, but these 4 were just the pure enablers. Anything else that's an enabler also works as a mana dork. So I have Ornery Tumblewag. They're a 3 mana 2/2. At the beginning of combat in your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. They also have Saddle 2, and when they attack while saddled, we get a double the number of 1/1 counters on target creature. So, it's just a tap outlet and a buff outlet, which is great. Then I have Tavar the Pummeler. Tap another untapped creature you control. They gain indestructible. And for 5 mana, we get a Pseudo Crater Hoof ability, where creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. I have Careening Minecart. Whenever this thing attacks, we create a treasure token. It has crew 1. It's easy to crew. It gives us mana ramp. There's nothing to complain about there. Head Shredder is basically the same scenario. This is a 5/5 vehicle for 4 mana. Whenever they attack, we mill 2 cards. Now this is the cool part. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield tapped. It doesn't matter if it's from his ability or any other ability. If it goes to your graveyard, from your library to the graveyard, it goes into the battlefield tapped. So that can be cool if maybe somehow we go up against a mill deck. I've seen a few of those. It would really make them regret milling us. So then next, I'm going to go into the mana dorks and the rest of our enablers. Sentinel Stalwart. This is a classic enabler for Kona. I misunderstood them at first, or maybe it's just the way the Magic Arena is coded. I thought if I played Kona on turn 4 and I have Sentinel Stalwart untapped, or any turn really, and you have this guy untapped, you can tap them and Kona to produce mana. Float it, let the mana expire. We don't need anything to cast it for. That doesn't work in Arena? I swear that should work IRL. I can tap a land and do nothing with an Arena. So I don't know if that was just like a glitch I ran into, but I feel like I should be able to just play Kona, then tap them both to make a mana, even if I have nothing to cast. Lost Gite is kind of, in a way, I view it as mana ramp sometimes, because it's a great go-to equipment for a lot of commander decks. But whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put a charge counter on this equipment. Remove a charge counter from the Lost Gite and choose one. Untap target land, target creature can't block this turn, or put a 1/1 counter on equipped creature. Now, I say the first 2 are the most valuable abilities to that. I mean, nothing's wrong with having the option to beef your creatures up, that's for sure. But just being able to untap a land, we can get our commander out that much quicker. Or even, in the rare situation, work with Scene of the Crime, which is our one enabler that is a land. Scene of the Crime enters tapped. We can tap it for 1 colorless mana, and we can tap it and an untapped creature we control to add 1 mana of any color. So in theory, we could use, if we have Lost Gite in play, we have Scene of the Crime, we use Scene of the Crime to cast Kona, we can untap Scene of the Crime with Lost Gite, and then use Scene of the Crime to activate Kona. I know, that's like a mouthful, isn't it? You didn't expect that kind of big brain play from a mono green deck. So then, just classic mana dork, in my opinion, not classic, but a great mana dork, is Bramble Familiar. We can tap them to add 1 green mana. We can pay 2 and tap them, discard a card, and return them to our hand. That's a mouthful. I don't think I've ever done that for a board wipe, not gonna lie. But I have done it to do this. Send them on an adventure for 7 mana. Mill 7 cards, then put a creature, enchantment, or land card from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. That's fun. That can just be fun sometimes. Thornvault Forager is another fun mana dork. You can tap them for 1 green mana. We can forage and tap them and add 2 mana of any combination of colors. And we have no other squirrels in our deck, so their last ability is useless. Next really fun mana dork is Twitching Doll. Tap them to add 1 mana of any color, then put a nest counter on them. Tap and sacrifice them. Create a 2/2 green creature token with reach for each counter on Twitching Doll. Activate only as a sorcery. So, this is definitely a mana... We don't want them to hate our mana dorks, but this is definitely a mana dork that they will hate out, and that'll just be one less piece of removal for Kona or whatever big threat we get on the field with them. The next one, a mana dork, is Arcane Signet. Just basic. I feel like you need it in almost every Brawl deck. I think I've only made one Brawl deck without it in there. Flywheel Racer. This was an interesting one. I didn't know if it would really be worth making the cut. We have a 2-mana 3/2 vehicle with Vigilance. Crew 1, and tap to add 1 mana of any color. Activate only if Flywheel Racer is a creature. Like it has, I feel like there was just so many limitations it wouldn't work, but it ends up working out quite well. So then we have Enduring Vitality, a mana dork, an enabler, all in one. 3 mana, 3/3 enchantment creature with Vigilance. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. When this creature dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's only an enchantment. So, we use that to enable Kona. We use that to make everyone a mana dork. And even if this thing dies, it can still work as an enabler. And Relic of Legends. This is a great mana rock. It's like a upgraded Arcane Signet in a way. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. And then we can untap the legendary creature we control to also add 1 mana of any color. And we also have I have a lot of legendary creatures in here that aren't just Kona. I know it seems weird that this deck, you've probably noticed, it doesn't have a lot of creatures. We have 17 creatures and 20 non-creature spells in this deck. But you need a lot of interaction to actually handle the stuff you see in the Brawl meta, which is where we're going next, is mainly like our interactions, our core cards, almost like maybe some things I've taken from the common mono green shells. Coordinated clobbering, we want fight spells or spells that allow our creatures to deal damage. Because we're green, that's like one of our best removal options. And this thing works great with Kona, because tap 1 or 2 untapped creatures you control. They deal damage equal to their power to a creature an opponent controls. That's awesome. Enabler, removal, can't complain about it. Insidious Fungus, I guess they are kind of with the mana dorks, but they're also removal for artifact or an enchantment. This is kind of like a balanced Haywire Might, but it also does things Haywire Might doesn't, because for 2 mana and sacrificing them, we get to draw a card, and we may put a land card from our hand onto the battlefield tapped. So, we have artifact removal, enchantment removal, we have a draw speed and a mana ramp, or we just have a chum blocker if we need it. Insidious Fungus is definitely good value for the deck. So then Hunter's Talent is another fight spell we have. This 2-mana enchantment is a class enchantment. When enters, target creature we control deals damage equal to its power to a creature we don't. For 2 mana, we level it up. Whenever we attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. And then the last level is very great for us. For 4 mana, it reaches level 3. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. So there's nothing... Every level of this thing is awesome for us. Every class of Hunter's Talent is great. Monstrous Emergence. This was from Duskmourn, and I love it. It is so fun in the drafts. As an additional cost to cast a spell, choose a creature you control or reveal a creature card from your hand. This spell deals damage equal to that creature's power to another target creature. So even if we don't have a strong creature in play, we could have one of our many bombs in hand, one of our many creature-based bombs. And I know they don't all have the biggest power, but even then, I guess Head Shredder isn't a creature. We still have a lot of options there, though. We do. Just being able to deal 4 or 5 damage off of that can really also be a game changer. But yeah, a lot of times, we'll have something like Seascape Leveler, Galta, and it's like, yep, there's a shit ton of damage at you, and now you know what I plan on dropping. Paw Patch Formation, we get to destroy a creature with flying, destroy an enchantment, or draw a card and create a food token. I am a big fan of this spell. It's very simple. It's very comfort. When I say decks have ass, gas, or grass, this is definitely the grass. It's just a good charm spell. Nothing on there is bad. It's kind of just like Insidious Fungus. It's not ass. It's not going to fuel me that much, but I'm comfortable using it because I know it can get me out of a lot of different situations. Animist Might. This spell costs 3 mana, but 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature we control. Target creature we control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So it's a great fight spell, especially because it targets planeswalkers. And if we target a legendary creature like our commander, it's only 1 mana to deal all that damage, to deal 8 damage from Kona. Outcast Trailblazer, just more card advantage. This is a 4/2 for 3 mana that can block for 3. When they enter, we add 1 mana of any color. And when another creature we control with power 4 or greater enters, we get a draw card. So we do have a lot under that theme of drawing cards based off of our creature's power, which will help us in the match. Archdruid's Charm. This is a great, potent, powerful charm. It really is. The 3 options are all amazing. One is search your library for a creature or land card, reveal it, put it on the battlefield tapped if it's a land. Otherwise, put it in your hand and shuffle. Those are both great for us because we have Kona. I would have no issue searching for a Cityscape Leveler or Galta and putting them in my hand for next turn. The second mode is put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So a little bit of buff with some fight. There's nothing wrong with that. And then the other one is, I like it. It's pretty potent. I'd say it's worth 3 mana at instant speed. Exile target artifact or enchantment. That's nice because we get to exile it. It goes bye-bye forever. Especially if it's an artifact creature and they're like reanimating and shit like that. We don't want to deal with that. Tribute to the World Tree. Whenever a creature you control enters, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 1/1 counters on it. So we have a lot of creatures that will grant us that card when they enter the battlefield. A lot of them. So next, just as important as the interaction with them is, it is important for us to interact with ourselves as well. We're green. We need protection. Royal treatment. Target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Then we can put a royal roll token on them, which gives them ward 1. Smuggler's Surprise. Now, this does a little bit of everything, but, we can cast it on Spree. One of the modes, mill 4 cards, you can put up to 2 creature or land cards from among them into our hand. Just as with Archdruid's Charm, that's an awesome mode for us. Now, for 6 mana, we can basically do what Kona does, and you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. That can come in handy quite a bit, I'm not going to lie. Especially if they're hating our Kona out of the field, we're never able to get them in play, and then we draw Smuggler's Surprise, it is game on. And then the last ability is, for 2 mana altogether, this mode says, creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Hell yeah, man. Nothing's wrong with that, and for 2 mana, that's pretty cheap. Lava Spur Boots, a 1 mana artifact equipment that costs 1 to equip. It should be in everyone's Brawl decks until, and I'd say even after, what are they, Swiftfoot Boots? The ones that actually give hexproof. Those are coming back in Foundation. But even after that comes in Lava Spur Boots, I think they'll still make the cut in a lot of my decks. Innkeeper's Talent, we're doubling down on the ward. We're using this to give creatures a 1/1 counter at the beginning of combat. And, if we get to the third level for 4 mana, if we would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player as well. It's kind of niche for our deck, but there are a few situations where this helps out, at least with the way I built the deck, because we have Nissa, we have Railway Brawler. I know we have a few other things that would be helpful for it, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I know we have a few things, just a small amount of things where that final level really would help us. And if not, at least it helps itself out, and we're getting 2+1/+1 counters on the creature every combat. And, from level 1, they will have ward 1. So we got a lot of ways to stack ward on our Kona and make them harder to hit. Then we have Overprotect. Target creature you control gets +3/+3 and gains trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. It buffs, it protects, it overprotects, it does it all. I love it. This is a great spell, and it really can get a lot of extra damage through when we're swinging late game. So I want to take just a minute to look at the lands. I only have 22 in here. Hidden Nursery, it's the Discover land. We can discover 4 with it, which is pretty fun. We do have a lot of fun cards that cost less than 4 mana. Hunter's Maze, we can just sacrifice this, pay 2 mana, and draw a card. That's nice. And then, of course, Plaza of Heroes. You need this, you need this, you need this in every Brawl deck. And, oh my god, if you're dyslexic like me, you'll mix up the second and the third mode so many fucking times. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana to cast a legendary spell. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control. Like, they're not... that close together, but it's close enough to fuck with a dyslexic person. Thank you for sticking around for this part of the deck tech. Now I want to go over some cards from Foundations that are coming out that are definitely going to be put in this deck. Maybe even cause me to remake the deck altogether. These are definitely, though, like explicit upgrades for the Kona decks. So I'm going to start off with equipment. The first one that I want to talk about is Basilisk Collar. This is a 1-mana equipment that costs 2 to equip. Equipped creature gains Death Touch and Lifelink. Given our creatures with Trample, Death Touch is awesome, because that means we have this 12/12 with Trample running around. Now they have Death Touch. They can't, throw out a fucking blocker. Every blocker becomes a chum blocker. You only need 1 damage to kill with Death Touch, so you set your damage to assign manually, and they have to give it everything they got, or they're out of it. Swiftfoot Boots, I mentioned those earlier in the video. This is a 2-mana artifact equipment that costs 1 to equip. Equipped creature gets Hexproof and Haste. This will change Standard Brawl forever. This may even change Standard drastically, I'm not going to lie. Imagine this on a Heartfire hero. But yeah, this is going to be great. Just great, especially for Kona. Then we can just attack. They can't use removal. As long as they don't have a blocker, we're perfect. Vivian Reed. Now, she's not that great of a Planeswalker, let's get real. But I don't know. I think she'll be great in this deck. Her +1 allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest in the bottom in a random order. Her -3, I feel like it's pricey, but it's good because we can destroy an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. I wish that just cost 2 loyalty points. I feel like that would have been fair. Maybe I'm wrong because it gives you a creature, though. Or at least it should have been exile. It would have been good then. But then the -8, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2, have vigilance, trample, and indestructible. So if you actually have her on the field, you get her up all the way, you're unstoppable. I don't know if I am going to put her in the deck, but I feel like she does have the aptitude to be an upgrade for Kona decks. Saruk the Hunt Caller. Now I wanted to have Saruk and Goreclaw in my deck. I don't know though, they work good, they just don't slap like they should. You don't get that effect the turn they interplay. You've got to combo them with other creatures. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but it almost felt like hit and miss. However, Saruk the Hunt Caller may not be the same case. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn, including them. So yeah, I mean this could just be like a great haste outlet for the deck altogether. I am very excited to give them a try with Kona, definitely, and especially since they too will give Kona haste. Sire of the Seven Deaths. Now, I mean, this guy is just a massive bomb. I really see no reason not to use them in a Kona deck, especially not. They have Trample, First Strike, Lifelink, Ward 7, Reach. Those are all things we want in this deck. Lorna War Elves, it should be a no-brainer for most people that play mono green a lot. Because, yeah, even in Brawl, dude, just having the ability to have the 1-mana mana dork can go a long way. Or if anything not, it's going to force some of their early removal out on something that really isn't that much of a threat on its own. It's just used to help get threats out. Darksteel Colossus is just a great fucking bomb. They're 11 mana, 11/11 with Trample and Indestructible. So hardcasting them is quite the task. But that's what Kona's for, man. That's what Kona's for. However, if they would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, reveal them and shuffle it into their owner's library instead. So, if we're up against a mill deck, that's nice. But also, I don't have any recursion in this deck. I don't think anyone really runs recursion with Kona. I don't think you can. You can pull stuff out of your graveyard, that is, but you can't put it straight in the battlefield. So, Cultivator's Caravan. This is an amazing vehicle for Kona. It's a mana rock and a vehicle. It doesn't need to be activated to be a mana rock like the one I have in my deck at the moment. It has crew 3, so it's not that hard to crew, and it's a 5/5. I just feel like everything about this card is awesome and is amazing for a lot of Brawl decks, especially Kona Brawl decks. Garruk's Uprising. Whenever this enchantment enters, if you control a creature of power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have Trample. Awesome. And whenever a creature you control with power 4 or greater enters, draw a card. So yeah, there is just a lot of value in that, especially for mono green cards. I'm glad to see Garruk's Uprising come back, especially for Brawl decks. Galta Primal Hunger. Now, I did my review on Foundations earlier, and like I heard myself, I thought I said it funny, but I kept going. I was all like, this costs X less, where X is the total amount of creatures you control. It's the total amount of power of creatures you control, and I don't know why I said it the way I said it. But yeah, you know, we have a 12 mana 12/12 with trample that can cost X less. Like if we just have Kona in the field, that's 8 mana. Now, if we have Kona in the field, obviously we want to use Kona to get them out. But let's say if we don't have Kona in the field, and, you know, maybe we got the Head Shredder, tap a creature, get the Head Shredder out. If that creature was Tyvar, per se, now we have, that's -7. Now this guy only costs 5 to play. So it's not that hard for this deck to actually get this dude out for cheap. Especially, say, if I use Kona, and I get, like, Darksteel Colossus out, this motherfucker costs 1 mana now. Awesome. So this, I don't know how I missed this in my Foundations preview. But I was looking through cards the other day, and I was like, what? What? When this artifact enters, choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+0. Oh. Like, I just skimmed it, and I guess I thought it said type, like everything else in this fucking set. But for all the typo love we got in this set, we actually got love for the colors as well. And it's a mana rock. But so yeah, this will just give all our creatures +1/+0, be a mana rock. It may not be a bad choice, especially if you're building a budget Kona deck. This will definitely make the cut. So that concludes today's video. I hope it was insightful and educational to you guys. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay that went on while I ranted on about every single card in this deck. But I do like to do the in-depth deck techs and maybe go over why we chose things and maybe give people a better idea of how they can, if they don't like that card per se, or they don't understand why I put it in there, this will give them a better idea, and now you as the brewer, as the viewer, can decide, yeah, I don't want that. It's out. Thanks for explaining why you put it in there. I do not agree with you. And, you know, that's awesome, though. That really is, because I know not everybody brews decks, not everybody understands how to do it, but definitely for the people who do brew decks, you are watching these videos just as part of your research. I'm just like you, so I completely understand. That's why sometimes I'll brew a deck without watching videos so I don't spoil my brain. And then I'll look at their videos and go, God, how did I miss that obvious key piece? But yes, thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to leave it, to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Nick will be having some videos coming up soon. I'm going to have some more standard and some more standard Brawl videos coming up this week. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching.